Hey everybody, here we go with chapter 20 of the Count of Monte Cristo, The Stranger. Day broke. Dantes had long been waiting for it with wide open eyes. He rose with the first streak of daylight, climbed the highest peak of the island, as on the previous evening, and explored his surroundings. As on the previous evening, also, silence reigned supreme. Edmond descended, raising the stone, filled his pockets with precious stones, replaced the lid on the chest, covered it with earth, which he carefully stamped down, and sprinkled some sand over it so as to make the spot look like the rest of the ground. Then he left the cave, replacing the stone after him, and effected all traces of his steps for some distance around the grotto. Oh, effaced all traces of his steps. That makes more sense. He now longed with impatience for his companion's return, for in truth he could not waste his time in Monte Cristo looking at his gold and diamonds like a dragon guarding a useless treasure. He must return into the world and take the rank, influence, and power in society bestowed by riches only, the first and greatest force at man's disposal. The smugglers returned on the 6th day. Dantes recognized the jeune Emile from a distance and dragged himself to the port. When his comrades landed, he assured them that he was better, though still suffering, and listened to an account of their adventures. He displayed the most admirable self-possession. He did not even smile at the enumeration of the gains he would have derived had he been able to leave the island. As the jeune Emile had only come to Monte Cristo to fetch him, he embarked the same evening and went with the skipper to Leghorn. Arrived at Leghorn, he sought out a Jew to whom he sold 4 of his smallest diamonds, or 5,000 francs each. The Jew might have wondered how it came about that a sailor was in possession of such valuable jewels, but he asked no questions and made a profit of 1,000 francs on each of them. The next day, Dantes bought a small, fully equipped bark for one of his comrades on condition that he should set out at once for Marseille for news of Mercedes and old Dantes and rejoin him at Monte Cristo. He accounted for his sudden wealth by saying that on his arrival at Leghorn he found that a very rich uncle had died, leaving him sole heir to the whole of his fortune. Dantes' superior education made this story plausible, and no one doubted his word. As the period of his engagement on board the jeune Emile had now expired, Dantes took leave of the captain, who tried in vain to retain him in his service, and of his comrades, giving each one of them a handsome present. He then set sail for Genoa. Here he bought a small yacht. It had been built for an Englishman for 40,000 francs. Dantes offered 60,000 on condition that it should be delivered to him at once. He ordered a secret cupboard containing 3 secret compartments to be made in the cabin at the head of his bunk. This was furnished the next day, and 2 hours later a crowd of curious sightseers was speculating on the destination of a vessel which had put out from Genoa with a crew of 1 man, who said he preferred to sail alone. His destination, of course, was the Isle of Monte Cristo, where he arrived at the end of the 2nd day. His yacht was an excellent sailor and had done the distance in 38 hours. Instead of landing at the customary landing space, Dantes cast anchor in the little creek. The island was deserted. No one seemed to have been on it since he left. He made straight for his treasure and found everything just as he had left it. The next day he carried his enormous fortune to his yacht and locked it up in the 3 compartments of his secret cupboard. He had to wait 80 weary days before his comrade returned from Marseille, which time he spent in sailing his yacht round the island. When his comrade returned, he had a sad reply to each of the 2 questions put to him. His father was dead, and Mercedes had disappeared. Edmond heard these tidings with apparent calm, though he expressed a desire to be left alone and sprang on shore. 2 hours later he appeared and set sail for Marseille. He had quite expected to hear of his father's death, but what had become of Mercedes? A glance at himself in the mirror at Leghorn had reassured him that he ran no risk of being recognized. Besides, he had now at his disposal every means of disguising himself. One fine morning, therefore, he boldly entered the port of Marseille and stopped opposite the spot where, on that memorable, fateful evening, he had set out for the Chateau d'If. It was not without a tremor that he saw a gendarme accompanied by the quarantine officer come on board, but with the perfect self-command he had acquired, Dantes presented an English passport which he had bought at Leghorn, and, this permit being more respected in France than any other, he was allowed to land without let or hindrance. The same evening he stepped forth on the Camembert alone, unknown, as it were a stranger, in a strange land. So I will just add at the end, because I didn't notice before I started the chapter, that the interchange with the Jew is typical of this time period's writing and in no way expresses my personal views towards people of Jewish descent or of the Jewish faith. I would have said that at the beginning if I'd realized that was in their chapter. I like you guys. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.